Cool. So, Tint Wizdom number 73. I'm joined with Rob Oranges.
How you doing, Eric?
Good. How are you?
I'm great.
So, I wanted to say Rob Oranges from Denco Sales, but I feel like it's really Rob Oranges from a lot more than just Denco Sales, not minimizing that in any way. But, you've obviously worked for a long time in the window film industry. So, I think that's probably a great place to start is starting it kind of at the beginning. How did you get into this industry and kind of get us from there to here?
Yeah. That was 28 years ago now, give or take. So I used to have a bad snow skiing habit. I raced competitively on the FIS circuit, and so when summer would roll around, like everybody, I'd be cash poor. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, you ought to try window tinting. Those guys make a ton of cash all summer, and then you go back and ski when the winter started. So I did. I started working for a shop. It was a little rough because they already had like, I don't know, three or four automotive installers. Those guys were on commission. They were just banging out cars. They were really good. But because it was commission and kind of competitive, they didn't really want to teach me how to tint a car. So I had to sit there and just watch. And I'd get fed a car and then I'd hack away on it. And it was kind of brutal at first. And it was, heat shaping was just kind of getting started. So we were piecing in back windows. And then all of a sudden, one guy started using a heat gun. And so I grabbed onto it and it kind of went from there. But I think it was not too long where I got tired of getting in the back of cars, and they gave me a roll of film and said, "Hey, we got a automotive customer that wants their commercial door done. Can you go do it?" And I went and did the door,
Mhm.
and I left. I figured out how to do it. It looked good. Customer's totally happy. So I walked out of there and went to the next. They were like these little office complexes. I went to the next one to the right. Told them, "Hey, check this out." Sold that door. Went to the one to the left. Did the same thing, and then it was like flat glass was started from there on. So got into flat glass. The shop I was working for didn't really want to do it, so we kind of separated on good terms. I just said, "Hey, I want to chase it down. I'll do your jobs for you if you ever want to." And
Mhm.
it turned into running my own company. Sold that eventually. Got into distribution, film design, building modeling. It just took off. And then of course, window film being what it is, it's such a great product. Eventually, I got introduced to Denco Sales, and the nice thing about that is, like you said, I do just about everything. We sell about 25,000 different products, and I don't sell them all, but we are very diversified. So it's nice to be able to bring that to other companies and share it with other companies and watch them adjust and start carrying products they normally wouldn't. It's just great to be in different spaces, but that's kind of what it was in the nutshell.
Yeah, I
Way before
think
the internet hit.
right before the internet hit, right?
Yeah, we didn't have all this, like Tint Wiz. We didn't have the forums or the groups on Facebook. You just had to go grab a knife and a spray bottle and go figure it out and hope somebody would help you along the way.
Right, and the communicate like the ability to communicate as a group, I feel like is a huge part of what drives the industry forward and like the innovation and
Oh
growth
yeah,
and so on. So it goes to show you like how much value comes from being around the right people, whether it be online or whether it be in person or any way. We obviously have technology, but what I'm getting at is like back to what you were saying, the value of like Denko carrying so many products. That's a huge resource for a company because as a company, you're always trying to grow. You're always trying to find new opportunities. And like, I know from personal experience with Denko it works. It's a smooth way. Like when you have somebody who knows about window film but can also answer your questions about other related products, signage, graphics, and so on. So yeah, I really want to drive that point home because I feel like there's a huge value in getting products from a company like Denko versus a company that just does window film. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but there's a value there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and it's nice because what I bring to the table, window film wise, with some experience. There's the equivalent of me in equipment, in
Hmm.
signage, and LED, and all the different divisions we have. So we can put an expert in front of everyone. And whether it's a distributor like us or a full-blown window film manufacturer, the value of having somebody that works there that's been in your shoes, that's had to do warranty work, for instance. You've got somebody that knows what you're up against, rather than somebody that's just sitting at a desk and they've never installed the product before. They don't even know it has a liner on it, or so a lot of value there.
For sure. So I want to kind of jump back to when I didn't know you had a company that you sold. I kind of want to jump back there. I'm curious, did you sell that company as an opportunity to move forward? Like, was it an opportunity to sell the company that led to that sale, or was it to move to a different opportunity, or was it a lifestyle choice?
It was kind of all the above. I was getting bored with window film, actually. The early '90s. Um, there's a pretty cool product that came out. I think it was Mark Sharfstein that brought it around. It was called Solus, and it was totally different from anything that we were. So we were selling silver or bronze and flat glass. Those are kind of your two choices. Eventually, dual reflectives came out, which was really nice. And then this crazy clear product that knocked out all this heat and IR, but it was super expensive, and we didn't know how to sell it. Probably, cost us more than we were selling jobs per square foot for. So trying to figure out how to do that, and there just wasn't anything different that came along. So I thought, well, I'll sell it and venture out and do something else. I sold it to the automotive company that I started working for,
Nice.
and they bought it from me. Went back in and managed it for a while. I was starting a family at the time, so that was kind of a better setup for me. Then one of the manufacturers that we were working with, their distributor had an opening, and it was growing and everything. And I just thought that was like the next challenge, um, for me personally. I really thought flat glass at the time just had such a potential to it that was just not even being tapped into. And so I wanted to get into building modeling. I wanted to learn as much as I could about that, and what products were coming down the pipeline that would solve some of those problems. So it was just kind of a progressive thing for me.
So you're without a doubt an expert at flat glass, building modeling, glass types, all that. So I'm curious, like, where do you see that fitting in? Like you mentioned how you saw such a big opportunity previously. Where do you think we're at, like with a like life cycle of opportunity, and how do you think that opportunity relates to tint shops? Because I feel like there's a variety of different types of commercial and residential jobs. Residential, I feel like within a smaller box, but when you say commercial, there's small commercial that any tint shop's pretty much capable of handling, and then there's commercial that sounds amazing because it's multiple buildings and it's hundreds of thousands of square feet, but maybe that's not in any way a fit for a regular tin shop. So, like, how do you see that all playing out? Is it all riches at the bigger scale, or is that a different business, or what do you think?
I mean, everything has its place. I think everybody kind of dreams of grabbing that 250,000 square foot job, bagging it and making a lot of money on it. But you really got to build up into that kind of business because it's a long sales cycle. So you're not going to go out tomorrow cold calling and get one. It'd be really rare. Nor would you always have a company that's geared for it. If you're doing a lot of automotive right now, and you got to pull all your auto guys off to do that big project, you're just taking from one part of your business to get another part. So that's not great. It's nice to kind of ease into it and build a division in your company that specializes in it. That small to medium sized commercial has a quick turnaround, quick cash flow, which is
Right.
really important because you got to build your cash reserves. Because unless you have a really good partner on the supply side that'll help you finance the big stuff, you're going to be stuck, flipping credit cards or whatever forever, and that's a challenge. But I mean, it's there. I'm trying to think back, like 2005. I remember just a massive residential market, just residential as far as the eye could see, top dollar. Everything was going great, and then the economy bit the dust in '08, and it was almost all commercial. And the big driver there was, in a commercial building, you have all this expense. You have uncontrollable expense, like, employees and cost of product and stuff. And then you have what's controllable, and that's your energy consumption. And that could be up to 33% expenses that you could alter, you could change. And when you look at the building shell itself, the envelope, windows are literally one of the biggest holes in there, draining money and energy and so forth. And so we're like in a perfect position to take care of that, because I think the DOE said one time over 75% of the existing glass out there was underperforming. So, in '08, it was like, go get it. And so a lot of our customers were commercially driven.
Mm-hmm.
Automotive sprung back up after all that, and a lot of people have been in that space. But I think with this big hit to the world economy, we're going to circle back around again, because you can't help right now but manage your expenses. Companies are looking for ways to reduce it, and if they have portfolios of buildings and properties, then you've got to take a hard look at that and see how you can make them efficient.
So when you talk about commercial properties that are looking for efficiency, so like energy savings, like to me, energy savings and window film kind of go synonymous, like with flat glass, especially like the term energy savings. To me, though, I feel like it's less effective the smaller you get. I mean, meaning like I don't think like I feel like small homeowners like they're pretty much looking for heat reduction or privacy. Small commercial, typically something like that, privacy as well, or maybe they have windows that are causing glare. Do you Is there a kind of a teetering point where you start to see energy efficiency, meaning just in the power bill being a bigger focus? Is that with, like you said, properties that are managed by people who have multiple properties, or am I kind of wrong and you see that in smaller projects as well, where like energy is
No,
the,
that's
the sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a point in each space. Is like residential, they're doing their windows to gain back that living room they can't sit in at their favorite part of the day, or they're trying to protect and extend the life of their interiors because they bought a house, they filled it with nice furniture, and now the sun's tearing it all up. So, those are no-brainers. Right now, it's a little challenging because some people are probably have this intrepidation about letting people into their homes.
Hmm.
Small commercial, I always look at that as like, I call it kind of storefront.
Hmm.
Storefront's got to protect the assets in the storefront. And for solar film, that's, again, fade reduction, maybe some comfort. And then you've got people that own properties, and those properties, depending on how they're set up, they're either an expensive building to occupy, or they're efficient and they cost the tenant less, or they cost the property owner less. And window film's great there. But it's kind of evolving. It's now with things like riots that are going on and stuff, people are looking at safety security film. I see a lot of that marketing happening.
Sure.
Glass inserts, like the Riot glass product, and so forth. So it's kind of evolving past just energy efficiency. There's more things to bolt onto your building, so to say.
You bring up Riot Glass. It's been on my mind the last couple of days. Like Brad Campbell, no question, has been successful in window film. Like definitely like a standout achiever. And just now, right now, thinking about Riot Glass, it's like if he couldn't have hit the nail more perfectly on the head, like
Yeah, standing in the front of the line.
I mean, just the name, the solution, the whole thing, like it's pretty much a perfect hit. Like he took the shot and waited a little while, and then the shot came down and it nailed the target.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of that, Eric, right now. I don't just, see that product as an opportunity. As, we mentioned safety and security film, probably anti-graffiti's in there somewhere,
For sure.
because people are wandering up and down the streets just causing mayhem.
Hmm.
But then, because of COVID-19, there's just a massive, I guess you call it safety signage market emerging. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really not a hard thing for a window film company to kind of morph into that space, because it's a sticker
Hmm.
and we're adhering it to something, and that's our space. We do it on cars, we do it on buildings. Now we can put it on a floor, on a counter, MCM board. There's all that opportunity.
So, talking about that, what do you think? Like, if you're a window film company now doing auto and then some residential, some flat glass, residential, commercial, and you kind of want to take advantage of that. That's like you said, safety signage, stickers, kind of, you're not necessarily doing sides of buildings, but you're just doing the stuff in small commercial. What do you what is the investment? What does somebody essentially need to get going, in your opinion?
Um, yeah, you're kind of familiar with it because you've been down that road in the past. Is you need to get a printer,
Hmm.
a laminator for some things is a must-have, and a plotter are your three basic pieces of equipment.
Twenty thousand
And
dollars can handle it.
Oh, you know what? Right now, the printer manufacturers are bending over backwards to help people get in the business. I just got the HP kind of sales kit for this month, and it's big. I'm still trying to digest it, but you can basically get into an HP latex machine for under $12,000 right now,
Wow.
and you've got no payments for up to 90 days if you qualify for financing. Roland's doing something very similar. They're doing 6 months, $99 payments.
Wow.
Um, there's all these rebates and opportunities going on, and so really what you want to do, whether it's us or somebody like us, is talk to our equipment folks that go through this day in and day out. They've been in the business, and they can kind of look at your company and what you'd like to do and make some recommendations, so you don't go making decisions that you regret.
Hmm.
It's more of a planned entry. They know the deals that are going on right now. The equipment industry is kind of funny. I've been sort of in it for the last 5 years, and I'm learning that there's basically hard costs there, and they're all, no matter who you buy it from, you're pretty much going to pay about the same thing. You might get a few little add-ons here and there, but it's the follow through afterwards. If your machine breaks,
Right.
is your supplier an authorized repair center? We
Right.
are. Can they put you in touch with training? There's a lot of really cool training webinars going on right now. And, to what you do with video, some of these equipment manufacturers are doing the same thing. Is they're leveraging the video online, bringing people into a room and doing what we normally would go there in person to do. And
Yeah.
it's just as effective.
Yeah. That's really cool. And what you just said, I mean, all the printers probably and all the cutters cut and print when they're brand new, right before you buy it, and then for some time after you buy it. But the question is, like you said, is it going to break? When it breaks, who's going to repair it? How quickly are they going to repair it? And what kind of support can you get on figuring out how to troubleshoot issues? Because that's the whole thing. So like, it's not really about finding like a great printer. It's about finding like a very commonly used printer that's going to have and give you access to those resources, printers and plotters and laminate and
Yeah,
so on.
a knowledgeable rep's going to also tell you, how to use it and make, the lifespan go as far as it possibly can, where if you misuse it, you're going to break it.
Right.
One of the things that I saw and I kind of learned is, some people will get into the printing and signage industry, and so they'll buy a piece of equipment, and let's say it's a Roland, and then after a while they'll buy another piece of equipment and they'll get like an HP
Mhm.
for something,
You just
and then they'll
described
get
to
a
me.
third
But
machine
go
from
ahead.
somewhere else. Then they'll get this huge job, and they'll want to use all three machines to print basically the same color and have it match.
Got
It
it.
doesn't work that way.
Right.
So that's where having that input early on to build the plan, to
Yeah.
go out and execute, it's invaluable to have someone that knows the business real well.
Agreed. And because you need the equipment if you're going to get started. You don't want to be saying, well, I'm going to get started, but I'm going to do it without the equipment, because you need the equipment. Kind of need to know what you're going to need before you
Yeah.
need it.
I mean, you could go to a, kind of a middleman that's got a piece of equipment. At most shops that invest in a printer, one of the ways they start to pay for it is they go out to all their competitors and they print work for them.
Sure.
And then they've got their own clients that they do work for, and that's where they're making the bigger margin on top of it for. But you can use kind of a middleman like that. You're going to pay more, but eventually, if you can get a good plan going, you can get your own machine, and then you've had a printer before. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can do everything from stickers to perf to printing on fabric for various things. I've seen on flatbeds. I've seen them run a door through a flatbed and actually print a Fender guitar on fire on a door.
Wow. Yeah.
So sky's the limit.
There was no shortage of opportunities to pair graphics with window film. It just seemed like it was, you're always going into a newly opened restaurant or newly going to open office, and they needed distraction markers, or they needed their numbers to their store, their hours, or their something. Like, there was just never a shortage. I feel like it's such a good add-on that, like, if you're not doing it and you're doing flat glass, you might as well just jump in my opinion. Do you
Right.
have?
Well,
Go ahead.
you mentioned window film. I mean, you can make your own window film, and it's not that hard to do now. The media is getting better. The printers are getting better and faster. And so now, if you've got a client and you're doing a custom graphic for them, let's just say it's a deco film that you're printing. Let's say it's dots,
Mm-hmm.
on there, and you're putting it on conference rooms. And everything comes back for a rebid, and if you're using, and not to our suppliers that we buy and sell deco film for, they've got great products, but those things can be bid on and put out for bid by many companies. If you're custom printing your own film, now all of a sudden that's something that's very hard to duplicate. So when it comes time to redo,
You got it.
you pretty much got the job, or to repair, you pretty much have that job. So
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of put things into your own hands, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Would
Oftentimes,
be
the people with a lot of money to spend, oftentimes, not always, want something very specific. So, like, we'd always find ourselves printing out shades on, like, shades of blue on frost or on dusted crystal, and then you bringing the customer just little shades of it. They pick one, and then you go, well, now it's time to price the job. Like, who else is printing shades of blue on dusted crystal and can turn it around in a week or whatever? You just kind of limited your customers' options to you, and it no longer becomes about price. So
right, right. Yeah, and it's times are. It's weird. I'm kind of calling 2020 the unyear, where it's unprecedented. Um, things are undetermined,
hmm
unsure. You just go on and on and on. But with all of that kind of negativity, there's all these opportunities there. If you want to get in the print business, and if you've got one of these disaster loans, and you can legally put the money to that at a low interest rate, you can just get a rockin' deal on a piece of equipment right now, and off you go.
hmm
And kind of had this, I guess, if you let, like a tripod has several legs. If your business is just a mono, it's just sitting on one thing, when times are tough and things shake, it tips over real easy. But you
hmm
have it based on many different things. It's more of the tripod effect. You can hold up a lot better. Middle of March, when things started shutting down, we had to figure out, first of all, we wanted to protect our employees. That was really important. We had a community responsibility to protect our customers and the general public at large. So in California, we shut down. We've got 8 warehouses, and 3 of them in California. So we shut those down right away, and had to determine whether we were an essential business. And it was established that we are essential to the national supply chain for safety signage, street graphics, and so forth. And who would have thought that that would just blow up, because now everybody needs a face shield on their counter. So all the MCM board we were carrying, the R4, the R6, just selling out like crazy. People were calling us for PETG 7 mil anti-fog, so they were making their own face shields, and people were adjusting. And the nice thing is as a supplier, we could keep up with them. And so it's just looking for ways to adjust your business, even if you've got something that's working right now. Automotive's kind of still doing really, we're super busy on the automotive side. And maybe you just need to adjust that flat glass portion of your business to keep that going.
Yeah, I feel like that sort of like change, diversity, opportunity, like it's like a muscle in a way where you want to be comfortable with new things and trying new things and expanding in different directions. So like you said, when the time comes that you absolutely have to, it's something you're familiar with, because it is, I don't know, it's like it's an experience thing. You mentioned automotives rocking right now. Rick Tallman left a comment, auto is rocking right now, but are you, is Denco,
Nice job.
yeah, is Denco still Hooper, Autobahn, Edge as far
Yeah,
as,
yeah.
okay.
We distribute Huper Optic, Autobahn for the automotive crowd, and then Edge, which has both flat glass automotive and deco films in it. A lot of our signage customers buy that because they do window film as well. We're also a 3M Fasara and glass finishes distributor as well. So there's 4 different lines of film there.
Okay, and then you're mainly West Coast, but could you sell to anybody in the whole country, or is there certain territories that you can sell to?
With Huper, Autobahn, and Edge, there's territories. So pretty much from the Dakotas on down to New Mexico, all the way over to the West Coast. That's us. We've got 8 warehouses in that territory: Seattle, Portland, Bay Area, Fresno, LA, Boise, Albuquerque, and Denver. And then out of those warehouses, we run our own delivery trucks. They're kind of running on a unique cycle right now with the COVID-19 stuff, but normally we do free local delivery, which is nice if you need it right away. Usually if it's in stock, it'll get to you the next day, or if you order early enough, sometimes you can get it same day.
Right, and that's a huge difference than most other window film distribution or manufacturers, and there's a huge value to that because I don't remember a single time in the years that we were ordering from Denco that the delivery guy ever lost a package, or like he skipped the delivery
Or stepped on it.
or stepped on it, or it never happened. Like, it was the same guy every day. It was a box in a van. It wasn't in a truck full of tons of other boxes. And I think, I don't know, that's another value. If you're close to one of Denco's distribution, it should be something that you consider when you're choosing where to buy stuff from, I think, because you want to rack up as many conveniences and like values. They add up over time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you guys, we tried to make a big difference in your business. I think people look at distribution kind of funny. I've heard comments that we don't need distribution, and it's a service-based business, and some people might think, well, they're taking a big chunk of margin, and we really don't. We work off of volume, and there's certain equations to successfully distributing. There's a lot of cost involved in carrying a product on the shelf, but being able to scale something and have it readily available for your customer, especially when there's emergency. I remember you guys calling us back. When you had tight schedules, certain people only had their homes open for a certain amount of time, and we had to get stuff out there. And the drivers get to know you, and they know your business, where your installers are at, and we're able to adjust for that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's value
Mm-hmm.
there that other companies can't do. Do I have a window film machine in my warehouse where I can pump out my own film? No, I don't. But I do have forklifts and I do have vans, and so there is some value to that.
Sure. The idea behind distribution is somebody has to distribute the product, even if it was the person who makes it. But in this case, it's a company that specializes in distribution. So they're going to ideally be the most efficient and an expert at it. And then you're also taking advantage of it's not just one product. If you couldn't have that sort of distribution if it was just window film or just Hooper Optic. So anybody who thinks
Right.
distribution isn't needed, it is needed. It's just a matter of what it looks like, but you
Yeah.
have to have distribution.
Yeah, I agree. And you can custom tailor it. I mean, if your business is growing and you see that you're going to be buying a certain type of product, whatever it may be, and a lot of it, you can have your distributor stock and carry that inventory for you. And if you're on terms with them, like I had a customer today, he needed net 45 because of the project he was working on, and he qualified for it. So we were happy to give it to him and kind of help out that way. But you think of being able to carry inventory. There's a little known cost called the cost to carry, and it's actually they've proven it's anywhere from 25 to 55% your cost to carry, and people don't always think about that. They think, well, I'll make a direct deal with whomever and bring this in and put it in my shop. If you're not turning it, it's burning a hole in your shelf. It's using capital that you could use for marketing or hiring employees. It can be really toxic in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where a distributor who's churning those numbers, they can afford to carry it because they're moving it all the time, and so you can leverage those guys to carry that stock that you need
Right,
while you grow your business.
right. Because everything has a cost. Opportunity cost, financial cost, but like it all has a cost. It's just a matter of if you're weighing it out and really looking at what that cost is. And like you said, space in the
Yeah.
shop. Like how
So
many?
whoever they are, try and partner with them.
Mm-hmm. Like not,
Find that local distributor and try and partner with them if they're carrying the products you need. If they don't, ask them if they can. There's a lot of things we don't carry, but if somebody asks me, we can look into it and see if it's possible.
what what are you seeing as far as like antimicrobial or any solutions related to the whole COVID thing, other than obviously signage and barriers? Are you seeing other like solution services, films?
Yeah, yeah. So we carry a UVC light, and it's basically about the size of a brick with a handle on the top, and it emits UVC, which is a portion of the UV spectrum at 275 nanometers that our atmosphere normally filters. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. But what UVC does is it hits the RNA and DNA molecules in bacteria and viruses, and it disassembles it. So it basically takes apart any of those things, and that's what they use to sterilize dental instruments with, hospital instruments, hospital rooms. This is just a portable solution, and what we're finding is we were first only distributing it to the medical field because that's where the primary need was, and then we widened it out because now that companies are opening back up in whatever phase you may be of opening, some companies handle a lot of cash. Like I live in Nevada, casinos, those guys are going to have to sanitize cash, which is really weird. But these are perfect for doing that. You can sanitize keyboards and countertop surfaces that get touched a lot with it. Could you do a car? You probably could. Basically, it's 5 seconds of exposure. Unlike some of the chemical solutions, which are really good ones, this is a one-time purchase. These machines run about $1,500 to $2,500 depending on what you get. But some of the other solutions, they're costing you so much a car, whether it's $1, $10 or more, and will add up way past, $1,500, $2,000. So that might be a really good solution to look into. You can contact me or anyone at Denco, because we got a good partnership with a company that manufactures that product, and it works well. The other things are like antimicrobial coatings, which I made a comment somewhere, and I just simply said, you really ought to learn about it. It's needed. They're good products out there, but learn what you're selling and how it works before you go out and pitch it, because it may not do what you think it does. And you really don't want to damage your good name. You certainly don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
But there are products that are photocatalytic, and photocatalytic is basically something that absorbs UV to create a chemical reaction, or basically a hostile surface for bacteria, so it can't reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
And it works great, but you need UV. So if you try and put it in a car that has window film on it, how much UV is going to get through that window film and make that work? So that would be something you definitely want to watch out how you use it. There's some others. There's films that are antimicrobial. Again, just they usually use silver or something in them. Just figure out how they work, what their limitations are, and if there's a spot in your business for it. I think that's just one of those opportunities that's going to be around for the future for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's if you try to like plan even like 6 months, like try to plan like from here to 6 months, it's kind of tough to plan anything now, like to even think about what things are going to look like. Cause even
Unforeseeable.
it feels
Another
like,
unword.
yeah, it feels like the a COVID thing. It almost feels like it's, I want to call it like fading away. Like, oh, that's not really that big of a, like, I don't know. It's just the vibe I get, but it's kind of like, we've moved on. It still has a reminder, like you go to the supermarket or you have to wear a mask outside and so on. But for the most part, it almost feels like it became secondary on the mind with the riots and if you're looking at it from a business perspective, your mind is insecurity now almost, and like you said, anti-graffiti almost more than health. So it's almost like what is 6 months from now going to look like?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know everybody's got kind of a different opinion on COVID. I've got family that works in the medical field. Some of them are nurses and doctors, and so yeah, I personally believe it's real. It really kills people, and it could,
Right.
at the very least, put you in the hospital, and you'd have a massive hospital bill, and nobody wants that. But here's something to think about: is if we don't protect ourselves, or if we get too complacent and it finds its way into our company, then how good's your company when your employees are all sick? And
Question about that. Right. Could be devastating.
that was something that we were really concerned about in the outset. Is first and foremost, we don't want anybody harmed. Our company's like family. Everybody, we got 150 employees. Everybody knows each other. We don't want to see anybody hurt. But if it were to find its way in, and let's say take out half or more of our staff, then how good are we going to be, or how viable is doing business going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
just from a liability point of view too,
right.
as a business, it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's on a positive side, there's a lot of things that we can implement, and there's a lot of things that we can sell to, not just protect ourselves, but help other people protect themselves. And if everybody's doing something, it's better than nothing. And probably, hopefully, we'll progress through this. Okay, a lot of things will probably be different from here on out, but I mean, we normally travel, and for work quite a bit, and now there's no traveling right now.
Right.
So we're doing more video, finding ways to adjust. But yeah, it's going to be different.
It's going to be different if businesses weren't already worried about like having been closed for months and restrictions on being open, now they are worried potentially about not having windows or doors or any products left in them. Like it's the way it's compounded is like is surreal, but I guess life moves on and keep rolling.
You have to deal with it. I mean, if any of us could foresee this coming, I mean, I would have stocked up on the MCM board for days. And so now what you get is a run on things, just like, early on, everybody made a run on toilet paper for whatever the reason. And toilet paper was really hard to get for a while. And it's that way with some products. We're starting to see that as it's tough. So, work with your supplier. They're metering things out so that you always have something in stock, but it doesn't create this chain reaction that breaks down a supply chain. It is kind of one of the challenges right now because there's companies out there that are big enough to buy up a bunch of window film or a bunch of any particular supply, and if everybody did that, it put the hurt on us all. So just work with your supplier, and if your supplier's not working, look for another one, and you may have to use a few things you normally don't use until supply chains level out, because it's affecting globally. So things like PET, for instance, most of that's made outside of the country because of environmental regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So, eventually that's going to affect window film in some way, shape, or form. There's other vinyl. It's kind of the same thing.
So as far as like PET regulations, is that because of like in the process of making it, the somehow destructive to the environment or to the people making it, or how does that? What is that?
Yeah, it's environmental. It's a petroleum-based product, and so like California has so many regulations. I think it'd probably be impossible to make it there. You could. I'm sure there's places that make it in small quantities, but in big, massive quantities for a big window film supplier, like like take Eastman for instance.
Mm-hmm.
They make so much window film, they need these huge raw material suppliers to feed that, and so you've got to go overseas.
Isn't that
And
interesting? Though you have to
if
pollute, you have to pollute another part of the world to get it done. It's like I don't like it's just when you're saying it, it's not something that I've really harped on in my like ever thought about. But as you're saying, you're like, yeah, you have to go outside the country to get it done. It's like we just have to pollute over there instead of over here. It sounds like there, but it doesn't. It is what it is. I mean, for now,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying to.
There's ironies all over the place. I
It's like,
mean, you can cradle to grave window film and make a case that, it's environmentally good, but you got to get your PET made over in somebody else's country.
right.
So I don't know. It's one of those things.
So ceramic coating. You guys carry Ceramic Pro, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously everybody knows about ceramic coating for cars. I feel like we've talked in the past and you've spoken about some, I guess, like initiatives or testing or looking into, more of the commercial applications, both on vinyl and on other commercial, like commercial pipes and all sorts of. How does that look? What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like, I assume like you do that, while automotive's the thing of right now, it'll eventually get its way to more of a grip on everything other than just cars.
Yeah. Well, automotive was like the lowest hanging fruit for that product.
Hmm.
It was the obvious choice to go into the market with it, and it's done what it's done, which is great. But there's all these different uses you can put it towards. They jumped over to marine, which it works there. It has its place. Residential. I mean, all you need to do is put it on your refrigerator. If you have kids, you'll be a firm believer in a ceramic coating. So it works good there. Commercial. I'd say with that, the hardest thing is just finding the time to install it because it's got to set up. And so, like take a bar, for instance. When are you going to get a bar to shut down so that your ceramic coating can
Can cure.
cure?
So how long do you
for
need to
full
cure?
charge.
48 hours?
Roughly, it just depends on the coating.
Would it be realistic to
And
bring in like UV lights for a bar and try to cure it in like 5 or 6 or 10?
oh, the infrared lights,
Or
yeah. I
infrared,
mean,
yeah.
um, it would speed it up. You just got to figure out a way to do it. That's a lot of lights.
But maybe not,
So
yeah.
there's some challenges, but I mean that's business. You see there's a challenge, and if you can figure out a way around it, then there's a lot of opportunity to be had. And it's kind of sitting there waiting for someone to figure it out because the products work. Um, and a distributor can only take it so far. We don't like to compete against our customers. We won't. So we don't go out into those spaces and try and sell the jobs, but we support and encourage our customers to do that because the opportunity's there. Signage and graphics, it works really well on channel letters in strip malls. I mean, the reds and the yellows hold up great when they're coated. And so you get, I mean, everything will break down in time. There's no,
Right.
just like with window film, you can't say it doesn't prevent fading. It just extends the life of everything. And in graphics, what it does is it keeps everything kind of aging uniformly, where if untreated, your reds just go first and those fade out and look terrible. The yellows are not too far behind. Everything on a west exposure is burned out before the east side. And so it just kind of levels everything out. It makes it easy to clean. It's why have a sign if it stays dirty? It sends the wrong message. And so some signs are 30, 40 feet up in the air, and so companies
Right.
have to get a boom lift. They have to pay somebody to go up there and do it. If you can get a stream of water up to a coated surface with a ceramic coating, everything's going to drop off it. So there's good money savings there. With vinyl, I think the easiest way to relate to it is there's a lot of people on here that'll put matte vinyl on a car, but they hate doing it because they know it's only a matter of time before that customer comes back with a shiny spot on it because they tried to clean something off it.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with signage. You can put it on those vinyls, and now a surface becomes touchable. Let's say it's in a restaurant or a public area where people are actually touching the sign. So there's all kinds of places. It's just somebody taking it now because it's available and going out and doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and we have some customers that are they kind of fly under the radar because I think they want
Flying under
to
the
just do
radar.
it, not having no competition.
Yeah, I mean, you just made me visualize. I'm thinking like a bakery, just like probably because I want stuff from a bakery. But you just I'm visualizing. You said people touching stuff like if you have a display case at your business and people are constantly touching the display case, you have to constantly be cleaning that. You can't have fingerprints on a display case. Like it looks terrible, even if it's a jewelry store or whatnot. It just looks terrible.
Right.
I'm wondering, is it reasonable or would it be feasible, do you think, if somebody's in a house on a consultation to say, hey, let me show you what this can do on a refrigerator or on a dishwasher real quick? And is that like application process like, hey, I can go grab that, I can apply it really quick, not a big deal, let it cure and we're good? Or not so much?
If you could get them to just keep their hands off it for 24 hours, they'll see the result. I used to do that with window film. Back in the day when I was selling it as a dealer, I do a try before you buy. And so, if it was like 9 square feet or less, and that was usually the kitchen window over the kitchen sink, I do one pane for a customer. I just bring my tools and, put up ceramic 30, ceramic 40, usually look good, add a good result to it. And so you did half that window, and the other half was clear glass. And the homeowner, whether it was the husband and wife, would get in front of there to do the dishes or something when the sun's coming through, and they could feel it. And so it's the same thing with ceramic coatings: is just do one side of the refrigerator, and they'll call you back, especially if they have kids, because you just get stuff on a refrigerator door, you don't even know what it is. It's nasty, but the coated side's great.
That's
Oh,
hilarious. I don't have kids, but
that's my
I
that's my
can't wait.
sales beta. Well, dogs too. Although your dog can't get up that high on the
No,
bridge.
no, yeah, but I'll look lower. There's probably something there from her.
Yeah.
I know on the inside of my car there is. So, Rick Tallman asked if you could explain the difference between Hooper, Autobahn, and Edge.
Yeah, there are three different brands: Huper, Autobahn, and Edge. Huper Optic was arguably the first marketed nano ceramic window film to market back in around 2000. And you know, I don't want to get into, we're great on flat glass. It looked amazing, sold like crazy. There was a handful of people that said, "Wow, if you could put this on a car, it would be incredible." And it has its challenges, but there were guys that rose to the challenge, made a bunch of money doing it,
Right.
and a lot of happy customers. I had it on my cars, and I've always liked it. But as time moves on, and shops get bigger, and they want to process more cars, and they want to sell a good ceramic. That was a need. They wanted their own territory, kind of like a Formula One was the only thing going on back
Mhm.
then. And just some, real special things for point of sale, like good sales tools, like a good looking solid heat demo, and kind of a way to educate the customers. We came up actually right here in Reno with the whole Autobahn program, and it kind of gave birth here, out of a little office in the former distributor here, and it's grown into a nice competitive program. It's got really solid films in it. If you can't get something like Formula One in the area, Autobahn's another territory opportunity where you could have an exclusive territory. So it differs from Huper in that respect. It's only automotive film.
Mhm.
Edge was like born out of a little frustration. So Huper had all these great high-end films in it. We had some traditional films, but there were customers that were still going and buying Suntech or whatever, for price point reasons. And so we thought, gosh, if we could come out with just a solid film line, but take all the bells and whistles out of it and bring the price way down, so that if you've got a real competitive commercial market that you're trying to operate in, or maybe you're new to the business and you can't afford $1,000-$2,000 roll of film, nor do you want to mess one up. Edge kind of came from those needs, and so each brand serves a different need. It's kind of like having a toolbox full of different tools. We don't use the same squeegee all the time when we tint. We've got something purposeful for each situation, and that's kind of what they're all about.
Yeah,
Hope that
and
answers the question, Vic.
yeah. I mean, I can say like you explained it perfectly. Hooper Optic, I think thought of more for flat glass marine, has an incredibly great reputation on the consumer level. Like if you search the brand, you're going to find really positive stuff, which I think is really, really important when it comes to selling a product. Is when people are searching and what are they finding. And with Hooper, one of the things was you found you can find it for years back, and it's always exceptional, like exceptional stuff. It's from happy people. And, like you said, Autobahn is automotive. Hooper, I think, is more flat glass. But, there's still people out there who will contact, like, look for specific Hooper ceramic or Hooper Dre or Hooper Sec, and they want it on their
Oh yeah,
car, and they're willing to pay anything to get it done. And it's just one
yeah,
of
and you
those, like,
can't you
anything.
can't change their mind. They'll drive to the ends of the earth to go
Mm-hmm.
find that dealer that can do a nice job at it. And
Mm-hmm.
and I always thought, that's whatever the brand, or you get a situation like that, and maybe it's a small part of your business, but it's a
Right.
part of your business that you can get really good at,
Right.
and it's almost enjoyable, um, because you're making somebody happy, they're getting what they want, and you're really good at installing it. And so, who cares if it's really hard? It's just, it adds to your reputation. And so the rest of your business that you're doing, I don't know. I
Yeah.
just see that referral type of business
Yep.
off a reputation. That's just like marketing that you can't buy.
Yep. If you wanna charge a customer over $1,000 for window film, that's the brand that comes to mind. If I'm on The Apprentice and I have to do it and I have 24 hours, that's going to be the brand I go with to try to get the job done, because I feel like those people that are looking for Dre, 1,000 plus is not a wrong price or a crazy price. Whereas with other films, you're going to have somewhat of a ceiling as far as price goes, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
options. You know.
Yeah. And I don't know. You think about things like the tint off, and they ought to have a category of hard products to work with.
Most
Um,
difficult
for
yes to do.
yeah, I I definitely on the flat glass side, throw in some French paints with some old painted wood, or putty windows,
I know that would be
and
fun.
then we'll find out who the world's best, is. I don't know. I just think little quirky things like that. But yeah, to your point, it's great film. It's fun to sell. It looks great when it's up against anything else. Always, that's my pretty much my sales presentation, is I challenge somebody, tell me which film's the best, and you put anything up against Super, and most of the time they choose it. It just looks great because it's made very well. Yeah, makes it fun.
And whether you're putting a pooper or not, I think the key too is, like you said, when you did sales, you always put something up. You're putting something up on the glass. Like if you're not putting something up on the
Oh
glass,
yeah,
you're really like cutting your neck off. Like you might make some sales, but you want to make more sales and you want to make the most, like put the film up on the glass, have a heat demo, have samples, like
yeah.
the whole
I
thing.
mean, if you're gonna paint your house, you don't go down to Home Depot and pick your color off the little chip card there at Home Depot. I mean, some people might, but I don't think you're going to get the result that you think you're going to get.
Yeah.
But you get a little can of it. You go home and you put some samples on the wall. Especially if you're married and your life depends on what your wife thinks of it. You pick that out based on the sample because that's where it's
Yeah.
going to live.
Yeah.
And I just don't see anything different with window film. We used to, when I started, we just like cut pieces off the roll and grease pen on what it was and set it on the table. And when it's down on the table, everything looks the same.
Yeah.
But you get it up on the window, you do a nice sample,
Yeah.
you give them some education. Let's go look at it on the outside so you understand what it looks like.
Yeah.
You might even want to let it sit there through the evening and see what it looks like at night when the lights are on. And then there's no surprises to the customer. And, usually 10 times out of 10, they're going to make the right decision.
Yeah.
And that adds to your reputation.
Right. Right. And you can't expect the customer to figure out what they're looking at on their own, because like you said, you may think it's going to look like they all look the same on the counter, but like the color of the sky that they're going to look at every day, the color of their plants, how their pool looks, everything on the outside of the window actually looks a little more green or a little more blue or a little more yellow or whatever it is. And if you point that out to them, I feel like that's how you kind of get in the customer's head to where they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And now
Yeah.
they know what they want, as opposed to you didn't point that out and they never really considered it. Because I know, like, sometimes I know for myself, like, you don't see things until you see them for a while. Sometimes you don't notice.
Right.
When somebody points it out to you, or it kind of you see for a while, you realize the differences.
Oh yeah. I mean, one of my biggest mistakes I made selling flat glass years ago, I sold this bronze job, and it was bronze. I think it was a 35%. I don't want to mention the brand because it's a good brand, but it was some strange bronze. It was very rosy looking, almost like a red, and bronze is made from copper, and so you got to put a color layer in there to kind of tone down the rosiness of the copper. But this didn't have it, and these people picked it, and I sold it to them and installed it, and you could just feel the tension after it
Right.
was all up. It was like, this is not what we. It was like they went to Home Depot and picked the color right off the card chip in Home Depot. You know,
Oh
it
no.
was. I felt bad because at that point in my career, I should have been a better salesperson and like got a sample up and told them, you know, you really ought to live with this for a little while and take a look at it. And yeah, it's kind of my growth process, as you would say, in sales.
And I'm curious on copper, like on copper films, like they've always, for some reason, they've been something that I liked and barely, like barely ever sold. I think if we were matching something or somebody was specific and asked for copper, other than that, it never sold. But am I right in saying it's just like it's something that's maybe popular in certain regions based on landscape color and so on? Like, is it? I always just think of like Arizona and Utah if I think of copper film.
Oh yeah, I mean, I live near Lake Tahoe. I tinted up in Tahoe. That's where I learned, and they have all of those stained houses up there. And we sold miles of bronze film. That didn't change until the ceramics hit the market back in 2000 because they have kind of that earth tone look, but they're less reflective. They don't have the dye in it, and they're sputtered, so they just look better. And so it
Mm.
cannibalized all the bronze to where it just dried up. We stopped selling it. And even now, as a distributor, I notice bronze sales aren't what ceramic sales are at all. But bronze it's an awesome film. It's very low absorbing and it's very high performing. And so, if you have a customer that needs that performance, they aren't particular about the reflectivity, color doesn't matter as much, but maybe it's a dicey glass situation where you really don't want to use a neutral product. Bronze is still a great fit. We did a project down in Phoenix, like 50,000 square feet or something like that. The customer's totally happy. The energy audit came out amazing. A lot of kilowatt hour reductions. Film was reasonably priced, so their ROI is going to be really quick, 2 years, something like that.
So it's like a
So
different. It's
it's
like an
got its place.
alternative to silver, right? Like a silver films
Yeah,
are kind of just alternative silver. Is it something that you think like people buy in instances based on the view out or the color from the outside as well? Are those like factors you think that go into a lot of bronze sales? Like, is that a thing? Like,
I think
because you have the desert, you want the bronze film to look out at?
it's more of whatever the salesperson shows them. If they pull it out, then they just might sell it. If they don't and they pull out a ceramic, it's going to be a ceramic sales. But it's rare that people pull out both and give them the option. And to my point about my bronze faux pas, as a salesperson, you got to be able to read your customer. It's kind of like going to a shoe store. When you leave the shoe store with a pair of shoes, they better fit just as you'd hoped and as
Yeah.
you'd expected. And we got to, meet that customer expectation if it's reasonable and it can be met. Then it's up to us to take what we have and make the best recommendations. I remember years ago, I went to this place in town where there's a lot of mobile homes and they wanted their mobile home tinted. And so I kind of profiled them, which I shouldn't have done. That was another mistake. So I pulled out the silver films and, cheaper dual reflectives, and somehow a Dre spec card fell out of my thing, and the guy looked at it. He was like, "What's this?" And
You're like, oh, you don't want
I told
that.
him what it was, and yeah, you won't be interested in that. And I'm writing up the bid and everything. He's like, "Could you put a price on this one? I really like the way it looks." And all right, you want it, you got it. And it was a pretty big number, and he was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
Double wide motorhome, Dre. So this is another learning lesson for me. Is you always want to offer like three choices. We short circuit if we get four. We go to Google, and that's not a good place to go if you're trying to close a sale. But give them a low, medium, and high. Put the samples up. Explain what is what and why it's priced the way it is. Let them see it from the outside, the inside, and if I feel comfortable with a company, I'm probably going to buy something from them, and I'm going to be less likely to, look somewhere else for a cheaper price.
Right.
And so you just got to kind of hit that comfort level, that give them that knowledge they need without overwhelming them, and then just let them look at it.
Yeah.
And it's not a hard product to sell. It's such a great product. It does a lot of great things, and
Yeah.
whether it's your cheapest film or your most expensive, they still filter UV, infrared, and visible light. They all do the same thing. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think like I know like when I'm looking for a service, I just myself personally, my mind primarily goes on I want the job done right. And I think like if you can communicate that you're a company that's going to get the job done right, regardless of which film they choose, I think that's a winning angle,
yeah.
because if you go into it thinking that everybody's concerned about price, you're going to probably miss the boat and head down that price road and all sorts of.
Well, I appreciated the way you guys did business back in the past. Is you were using your software, which is now Tint Wiz, and you had that feature in it where you were taking jobs that you did in the area and you could reference them
Right.
based on film type, which was really cool. And so now you give people, well, here's what it looks like on this home, and here's some, and kind of it's such a weird thing. We don't buy window film all the time, so
Right.
it's one of those quirky purchases that some people just need that assurance.
Yeah.
And you had a great system for it.
Yeah. Well, it was taught to me early on that like people with window film, maybe with everything, but people like a lot of people, whether they know it or not, they're kind of looking for somebody who's done what they're looking for. Like, so knowing that you've done more work in a neighborhood that's theirs, or you've done houses like theirs, or you've done Prius primes, like even with cars, even with normal cars, like being able to show that, yeah, here's 10 pictures of a C8 Corvette that we've done, like that goes a long way to people. Like it again, it shifts from being about price, and it brings up an opportunity that, you know, um,
Yeah. And I mean, automotive is well. Yeah, you just catalog all of that, and I'm sure Tint Wiz does that as well.
Yep, and that's one of the places where like I see it. I see it all the time because there's posts about people will be like, hey, what's a good scheduling software? And somebody will be like Google Calendar, and then you'd be like Apple Calendar, and then there is this one and that one, and like there are so many great scheduling systems out there where you can schedule people. There's great reminder systems. There's really great systems for everything. But the question is, do they come together to do everything you need? And that's one of the things, like, yeah, you can schedule your jobs using Google Calendar, iCalendar. You don't need anything fancy, and it can be free.
Right.
But what do you do with those pictures? And then are the pictures manageable when you're doing a few jobs a week? But how does that look 3 years into it? And like,
Yeah.
those are the kind
Well,
of
and
things
then
that,
being able to access it from a mobile device. I mean,
right.
way back when we were all just on our computers and we're, going into the auto folder and the make and the model and then
Hmm.
emailing it out. And now it's like you need to find it on your phone because you're standing in front of somebody
Hmm.
and you airdrop it to them or whatever. And
Yeah.
you got to do it like a sign whiz.
Sign Wiz. So, so the idea is that Tint Wiz, what we're doing is, first of all, you can quote signs within Tint Wiz now, but we are working on building out all the complementary services that a tint company could possibly also be carrying, whether it be flat glass or automotive. So it can be kind of all inclusive within Tint Wiz and still be open to add products that we didn't even think about that you're maybe selling in addition to. But that's the idea, is really um, we have so many plans to dig deeper into the tint industry that it really takes away the desire to say like, hey, we're going to get into this industry or that industry. But definitely sign being complementary, you want to be able to quote them together, no question about it.
You got, do you have perf in there?
So we don't. Okay, so currently we have preloaded I think all the window films. We don't have preloaded like all the signs, all the ceramic coatings, all the PPFs. So what I mean by preloaded, we don't have all like the brands preloaded. We don't have like the
Right.
packages preloaded and that sort of thing. But you can just put anything you want. So you could just type in window perf or any sort of signage, channel lettering, and just quote it. You're just typing it instead of it being preloaded. But having it just be a couple of clicks and kind of guiding you along the way and having those products in there is definitely part of the plan.
Yeah, I mean, we do. The window tinners are using a lot of clear perf for turf guard.
Mm-hmm.
There's a product out there called Turf Guard, which is basically clear perf being sold at a really nice price.
Mm-hmm.
Guys making a ton of money off of it, but it's perf. I mean, that's what we supply. We've supplied it forever, and you dry install it on the exterior of a window, and it's there's some other ways to bring down reflectivity. You can do anti-reflective films and bring a window down to 5% or even 2.5% reflectivity, but that's an expensive way to go, and sometimes you have to do both sides
Mm-hmm.
to get the result.
So what kind of film would do that? If you were trying to bring down the reflectivity, even if you had to do both sides, like what kind of opportunity?
Same stuff they use on flat screens.
So would that be okay? So would that be like an option? Because like we used to have a lot of like storefronts calling, and storefronts, they want their product to be seen. And if unfortunately the glass that was put in there has some reflection to it, they're saying, hey, how do I get rid of this reflection on my storefront so people can see my products? What are some solutions out there for that?
Yeah, Lintech has a film that is anti-reflective. I think there's another one. I just don't know what the brand is. But they're all the same thing. They use the biggest space I think they use them in is flat screen televisions to get the reflectivity off of that glass. And it's the same principle as you're just putting it on a window to knock it down. If you do one side on regular clear glass, it's roughly 9-10% reflective. You could bring it down to about 5. If you do both sides, you can bring it down to about 2.5. But
And how do,
it's expensive.
and like when I'm thinking about a TV right now, I'm kind of thinking of like this matte kind of like grainy finish on the cover. Like, is that what it looks like? Like,
It does it does have a matte sort of surface to it if you look at it really close, because that's what's dispersing the light and the
mhm.
reflectivity. I don't think it's that bad.
If
It's
it's like a Gucci
definitely
store, do you think they're going for it?
what's that?
If it's like the Gucci store on Rodeo, do you think they're going for it?
Well, if the reflectivity is too, bad enough to where they can't see the Gucci purse, then got to sell. They'll.
Well, I mean, I
It,
guess
it, it's
Gucci's
not that bad.
changing the glass, but like what I'm saying is like, do you think would it be unsightly in any way to have a storefront that had it applied? Is it like what's on that
No,
glass, or is it like barely noticeable? It's just a window film person would notice.
no. I think a window tinter would pick it out and go, "Wow, they put some kind of coating on here or film," but most people wouldn't notice.
That's I feel like
General
that right
public.
there for storefronts, such a market. Just because storefronts, like
Yeah,
people move into a store, they're typically renting. They didn't pick the glass; it was there. It's not necessarily what they want, and they're probably going to be there maybe 3 to 5 years. They're not thinking about, hey, I'm moving into a store. Let's replace all the glass. They usually find out right after
right.
they're already in. They're like, wait, what's this? How come you can't see it?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's exterior, so yeah, 3 to 5 years is probably
right on the
what you get
money.
out of it too. Yeah, you got to keep that in mind, exposure and everything. But yeah, I mean, there's those types of products putting at Tint Wiz. I was just thinking about it, before I came on and talked to you, and it's like, what are some of the things I could ask you? Have you ever thought of putting glass breakage guidelines? Um,
Glass breakage guidelines, like for each type of film.
yeah, like manufacturers all have their
Hmm.
recommended film to glass recommendations on there.
So
It's a big consideration in the business.
yeah. So there's a huge opportunity there, and it's definitely something that we're like actively working on, and it's part of that film library that we're building. And there's the reason we preloaded the films in there is because actually know from experience when we were using the software before the software was launched to the public. One of the things that we ran into was we didn't have all the films preloaded in there, so they would get kind of added as you would go. And you'd think like any
Yeah.
system you set up, that's what you're going to do. You're kind of add them as you go. Well, when you add them as you go, what you tend to do is you might not be as uniform as you may want to be with the films, causing some confusion, and then inevitably you end up with duplicates in there, and then duplicates become crazy confusing to you now because you've just split your one product
Right.
into two places. So we that's why we've preloaded the films in there. Now from there, the next thing we did was, most of the films have a description attached to them. So if you go in there, you're quoting Hooper Ceramic 40. In the notes section is going to pop up a description and some key points to Hooper Ceramic 40. And the reason being is because that was also something that I felt like gave us a competitive advantage, was just simply the way we kind of communicated the films we were proposing to the customer, that they could read it and kind of get an understanding of what that film is. Because, something like Hooper Ceramic 40, if you explain that it has a natural view from the inside out and a natural kind of view from the outside looking in, and there's low reflectivity and so on, if you explain that to somebody, they can start to visualize it, they can understand what they're getting. If you write C40, you're writing hieroglyphics to the person. So anyway,
Yeah.
we've preloaded descriptions in there. Now from there, like you just said, glass breakage, the actual specs on the film, what the specs mean. I mean, you can list the specs to a film, but if you don't explain what those specs are, like U value, I still can't explain U value. You can, but like if you tell me the U value is of a film, I don't even know if the number should be higher or lower. I don't, you know what I mean? So the same happens to when you explain it to a customer. So to your question, as far as like glass breakage standards and so on, those are all like, we envision a library to where when you're quoting that film, or even as a tint shop and you're working within Tint Wiz, you're able to figure out solutions and be able to communicate it and transfer that information all digitally, all in one place, without attachments, emails, printouts, this and that. But what I found kind of like interesting is how disorganized. Now I'm going to talk a little bit of shit, but just in general, when you look at all the window film manufacturers, how disorganized, like when you go to look for this stuff, you'll find versions from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You'll find film lists that have some films, but some of them don't carry anymore and some are not on there. And like you'll find their website will call a film something different than their PDF that's still, both are like new, like newish. And like it's kind of everywhere, to where I definitely agree, those like guidelines and so on, everything does need to be put in one place. And as of right now, it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some companies have little internal things that they update and they get out to their networks. But yeah, the internet, once it hits the internet, it can sit out there till it's dead and gone and still be out there and accessed and, have wrong information. There's just a part of me that I have brands that I sell, and of course, I compete, and that's my stuff I sell. And then there's this other part of me that just, for the industry, if we all collectively do things right, it really adds to the betterment for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's better than the opposite to
Yeah.
me. Like if I see a big old, there's a building down in Southern California, years ago. Somebody got the job. Somebody put a bunch of auto film on there. It turned purple, and the engineer in that building just hated window film from that point forward. He wouldn't even
Sure.
get the building redone when it was
Sure.
offered, because he just had such a sour taste, and that had an impression on me. It's just like, whenever I see or hear something that's not quite accurate, I tend to speak out, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. But yeah, it's happened.
On
But
Facebook.
you just think of things that you could add onto tools like Tint Wiz or whatever that could help people. Like I remember going out to look at a building one time, and it had all of this silver 20 on it, which low absorbing film, but the glass was breaking everywhere. And it was really weird. It was clear glass. It wasn't super big. And, you had to kind of do CSI on it and start looking for, well, what's causing this to happen? Are there pillars putting shade on it? Or there stress cracks on the ground indicating settling? Are there vents, pointing on just the top half of the window?
Mm-hmm.
And all these things that, if that salesperson knew about it in the sales process, they might have pointed it out and said, hey, you want to fix this first, change this, adjust that. I can't sell this. Just sometimes we have to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like, even just being able to go somewhere and say, "Hey, what kind of like?" I know it would be something I would ask you, but like, "Hey, what kind of films have low absorption for skylights, or what kind of film can be put on triple pane glass, and what like all these questions like these are experience questions, and like they're questions that I feel like get like knowledge that for the most part gets passed down like we're once person to person, sometimes on Facebook, but I think more often than not on Facebook, and I find that like again it's an opportunity that manufacturers don't really control this yet, and I don't mean control in like a handcuffed way. What I mean control is like, hey, this is like you don't. I don't think any manufacturers really thoroughly train somebody for flat glass on how to go in and sell all those different scenarios. That doesn't exist, and I think that's opportunity. And for us, the way we can be opportunistic with it in Tint Wiz is making that part of what Tint Wiz is a resource for that knowledge. But I also think for manufacturers, it's an opportunity to um, provide more and more guidance onto the scenarios and creating that information so that it's not something that's passed down, and those that are willing to take that guidance can take it, implement it, and that essentially elevates I feel like even just how that brand looks to consumers, because you start to get more of a uniform message, you start to get more educated dealers out there and so on you know
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's a challenge. To complement social media, there's groups out there. There's a ton of automotive information. I mean, it's crazy how much is available. Some of it's not right, but for the most part, there's a lot of really good information out there, and there's just a fraction of it in flat glass. And for me, I like to help people, but there's a challenge in social media. Maybe it's just me. I just type too much or something, but it's hard to explain these things and not like have all this other stuff come in, and sometimes it'll blow up, and and you just can't get something important across to somebody that needs it or could use it in the future to avoid something that gives the whole industry a black eye.
right.
So I little things like that are just ideas that come into my head that it'd be really beneficial. But it would be a lot of work.
So got a couple comments, one from Rick Tallman, one from Mark Carlson, both on the same subject, telling me that I'm wrong. Rick says, actually, yes, they do
I
training.
can't see the comment.
They do train selling flat glass. Hooper is extremely good with sales training. And then Mark said, sorry, Eric, but some manufacturers do train their salespeople and dealers how to evaluate flat glass properly. And your guest today is evidence of that. I'm not saying that Hooper and Denco, I'm not saying that those resources aren't available. I believe they are available, but I feel like they're more on like a ask and then you're given that information. The resources are there if you want them, but I don't think necessarily as you become a Hooper dealer or an Expel dealer or whatever brand that you have to kind of go through a training that sets guidelines on how you present those films. I just feel like there's no like, here's the standard of operations you have to follow as this dealer. Here's what we recommend. Not to say if you ask for training, you're not going to get, David Kratz or you or somebody who's going to be more than knowledgeable and helpful.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there is training out there, but it's kind of like a glass. You can only fill this up so much before it overflows, and so I see it more as an ongoing relationship with your supplier, and so it's incumbent on the supplier to hire competent staff that are experienced, and it's incumbent upon that rep to work with their customers, and if their customers need some advice or some experience, it just comes through that channel. Could there be a class and do suppliers offer information. Yeah, I mean, I remember buying from CP Films back in the day, and they had an awesome tech service group there that helped out a lot. I learned a lot from them back in the day.
So I think like
Even
really to try and like put it into perspective of like what I'm really getting at is I think for manufacturers and I think for tint shops, I think for everybody, you have to really think, is all the knowledge and information that I want to relay to my customer, whether the customer is a tint shop or whether the customer is a end consumer, a homeowner, or business owner, is all that information that we possess that we think is valuable, is that available in some sort of, is it available on the website? Is it available in print form? Is it available to be easily understood? Is it organized? Is it searchable, and so on? And I feel like, it's never going to be 100%, but I do think that's something that could be extremely valuable to evaluate, because I think we all know, like we're talking about Hooper Optic. We could talk, I'm sure, between like Mark and you, how many ways Hooper Optic's a great film. But then the question is, all those things you're going to say, can I find that on their website? Or are these all going to, all those things you're going to say, can I find it on a pamphlet that is handed to the customer? And I'm not really speaking specific to Hooper. I'm just saying in general, I think even just as a window film dealer, websites don't necessarily relay all the reasons why you're the company, all the services you provide, and so on. I think it's an ongoing challenge, and it's always moving. And I just think that focusing on getting that information out there is what matters, because I think we're in an age, I know we're in an age where people are doing their own research and they are going to be coming to the computer and searching for it. And if it's in a video or if it's typed out, it exists. If it's in somebody's head, it exists less. It's like less real.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I'd say that a lot of that information is out there, but it's behind closed doors. So most suppliers have their private networks for their customers, and that information's available, including Hooper and Vista, and
Sure.
just about all of them have it. And so you've got that information in its place, and you may or may not have access to it. And then the rest of it is the social media channels. Just about everybody has access to that in the industry, and so if the platform is made and can facilitate, and we can be patient with each other and allow everyone to speak without it flaming up into anything, there's a lot to learn from other. I know I learn a ton going on there. Sometimes I don't say anything. I just peruse through and grab little things here and there, and it's great. I just think that auto is got a tremendous amount of information out there, and in comparison, flat glass is just it's so minute, which maybe it'll change.
Yeah. Look, information is getting more and more organized. I'm just saying, I think like it's like, I'll read a couple more comments and then we'll wrap this thing up. But Rick said, here's the deal. Hooper has a full-fledged sales team and are on the cutting edge in that department. I would say you are correct on other brands. However, I'm not so sure. There are still some secrets in the industry. You have to join the team and put skin in the game to access those things. So, I mean, Rick, like, I did put skin in the game, and I was part of the team. So, like, I feel I'm speaking from experience, and I'm not saying that no information exists. I'm not speaking specific to Hooper. I'm not saying that every manufacturer doesn't have its dealer resources, its dealer groups, and its dealer, website and so on. They all do. What I'm saying is, I think it could be better. I think that there's room for evolution. I think with how much could be put on a website, how much, look, can you tell me right now, how quickly can anybody pull up, show me 10 commercial buildings that have been done with a Hooper ceramic? How quickly can we find that information? Just saying. Like, how quickly can we sort through every window film that can be on flat glass and show me the top 5 that have the lowest reflectivity? Or what dual reflectives? Let's look at a list of all dual reflectives in a 10% shade for flat glass. Those are things that, like, yeah, we can find it, but like, there's no list. And I'm not saying that that's like the 10 commandments we're waiting on. But what I'm saying is, I think it's an opportunity, because I think the more clear we're able to relay information as an industry, whether it be from manufacturer to dealer, or manufacturer and consumer, or dealer to end consumer, I just think that it gets better for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
that's all.
Well, I get what he's alluding to. I mean, I'd like to touch on the secrets of the industry. I mean, that I, I guess not everybody is obligated to come out and say everything about their business. Just as you're not obligated to tell me what's in your checking account. I mean, there's just some things that are yours and some things that are mine and some things that are theirs, and that's the way it is. But the industry is pretty easy to read. Is there's manufacturers, they have machines, and they make stuff with those machines. There's people in the middle that either have a brand but no machines, so they're a brand owner and essentially like a distributor. And then there are people that pick these brands up and scale them like us and make them more convenient for everybody to get. And we enhance their business by bringing in a whole collection of things. Do some of those films all get made in the same place but put in different boxes with different labels? Of course they do.
Yeah,
Vinyl's
and
that.
and I'm the least concerned about who makes the film. I think that's, to
Yeah.
me, it's like literally the lowest thing on the list in consideration of a film is who makes it or where is it made. I
To
could,
me, it's what can you do with it?
right.
What can you do with it with your business, and how does that affect your customer, and is it a beneficial effect, and
Yeah.
is it a growing effect? Yeah, it was funny. I came into the signage and graphics industry when I started working for Denco about 5 years ago, only to learn that vinyl is very similar to window film. There's only so many machines out there. They're all make everything in the same place pretty much, and
Hmm.
it goes out to different brand owners, and there you have it. So
Well, it's products in
it's just
general.
parsing through all.
Products in general, they're made by people who make those products. It's not like every product in general is like
Yeah,
being handcrafted by the company who's selling it or the brand that's on it. That's.
yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of companies out there that are trying to do good business with the product, and to me, it's relationship, it's trust. It's the benefit of the sum of the whole. And then there are companies out there that they don't always work truthfully or whatever, and you know maybe you want to avoid that, or maybe it works for you. Just pick one. I like to align myself with the distributor that there's good people that work here. That's why I enjoy working with them. They've got really good values. They're honest. They try and always do the right thing. And at the end of the day, whether business is good or bad, the people I work with are great,
Yeah. And
and I enjoy that.
one of the things that I always try to point out, because we talk about a lot of different brands on here, and people come on representing different brands and so on. And what I really try to point out is just different areas of value that companies provide. There's so many different ways that companies can provide value. Like we were talking about locations, like how many distribution locations Denco has, and you're almost 30 years in window film knowledge. We've talked about Expel's like exceptional marketing and like brand appeal or Ceramic Pro. Like there's so many ways, like there's so many different things that people are attracted to. It's really what you find is the best fit for you, where that value offering is one that matches what you're looking for, what you hold valuable. And I think the same goes for your customers too. So they're going to find value in different things. So it's about knowing who you are, knowing who your company is and what your company is about, and finding companies that align with what you're looking for. It's
Yeah,
definitely not about
and
10
I
cents per
mean,
square foot or if it's made in one state or another country or whatever it is, in my opinion.
no, not really. I mean, there may be some instances where every dime counts, but overall, if you're going to start a company and you're going to have it for 10, 20, 30 years and you're going to turn around and sell it someday, there's more to it than 10 cents a square foot.
Right.
And the way that you do business, I mean, we just had, probably one of the biggest world crises in the history of mankind hit the entire globe, and it's like, what companies are out there trying to help you? I mean, you guys made a concession, didn't you, with your subscription price to help people out?
Yeah, we did like 3 months or a little over 3 months with no
Yeah.
charge. I mean, how could you not?
I mean, that's,
You have like, look, we have to provide value for. You have to provide value for your customers. You have to provide value for people, and like you try to find that in every way possible. And if that's something that we can do and provide value in that time, we're going to do it. And what it led to
yeah,
was more people taking advantage and trying to use the software and integrating it in. It works for everybody. It also hopefully led to
right.
some people that weren't as stressed about money. So like, works for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and that's good that you can do that because when you get on the retail end, it's harder to make a concession. I remember seeing some posts where people were walking in and just being totally unreasonable. They knew it was a crisis. They knew business was kind of at a standstill, and so they wanted, their car done for half price or, just something totally unreasonable. And on the retail side, you can't afford to always make those concessions. But if a
Right.
supplier can help out in some way, shape, or form, that's all, part of that whole relationship thing, and that transcends brand whatever, or whether this is white boxed or, I don't like to say white boxed because it's the lid that changes. We need to say it's relidded or
Relit
you got to
it.
work on that word because it's not the box. The bottom part's always the same.
I guess like it just stems from like white label. Is that the like
That's a
white label is
lid.
kind of a term, so they changed the label for the box, white box. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna try and change it. I'll get in trouble for doing it, but
I'm gonna I'm gonna read Mark's comment because it's pro Eric, and then we'll end this. Mark
oh,
said, "You're
that's good.
being too humble when you say how could you not offer free service? Almost nobody thinks like that. We should pay attention to offers. Pay attention to offers to be helpful and thankful. Thank you. I thank you, Mark, for saying that. But I really feel like you've got to you've got to live your life treating people like you want to be treated. And I don't know. It's not about a month. It's not like you should be doing what
Mhm.
you should do. You should always be going out of the way to make your customer happy, whoever that is, or your neighbor happy, or your coworker happy, or whatever it is. Like you should always. And when you're always kind of looking for that little exceptional way, like you start to make people around you happy, like things get easier for you. So like I think kind of like the lesson, the way that this works for people watching, like you look at your customers like that, whether you're tinting their car, you're tinting their home or whatever, look at ways that you can make them a little bit happier, where you look at how you can say yes to them or how you can exceed their expectations in whatever way you can do that. And like life gets easier.
Yeah. No, that was a nice compliment, and it was well deserved. You guys are doing a good job, um, and you're helping out. Yeah, it's really well deserved.
Well, thank you. And thank you for doing this today. I really, really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
appreciate
My
you
dog's
taking the
starting to
time.
blow up now, so.
Yeah, he probably wants to go hunt bears.
Well, we're gonna go mountain biking, and he knows that he's on a time schedule and everything, so he's looking forward to getting out. But thanks for having me. I miss, we don't travel as much, so I don't get to see you. Tell Betsy hi.
I will.
Um, yeah, I just miss crossing paths.
Ditto. And I hope maybe like I don't know if SEMA's still a go this year, but if it's not SEMA, it's probably going to be all the way in January at the Window Film
Something,
Convention.
something. Well, we'll see what it is. But yeah, hey, take care. Keep up the good work. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the comments on here, and just fun experience. Love talking window film.
Thank you. Same. Have a
All
great
right,
night.
we'll
Enjoy your
catch you
bike
later.
ride.
Yeah, later.
Bye.